Trump. But I want to start with a different piece of news. We have so many guests coming up in the next 2 hours that I actually want to honor one of the great men that lived in the 20th century. And I actually think it can be rather instructive of exactly what is in front of us right now and what we need to help solve our problems here domestically. Yesterday, Mikhail Gorbachev passed away. Now, for many young people out there, they have no idea who Gorbachev is. In fact, I was talking to some young people recently. I said, tell me about the Soviet Union. Never heard of the Soviet Union. In high school, never heard of the Soviet Union. They don't learn that stuff in school anymore. Now, Gorbachev was a very special leader. Gorbachev, by all estimates, was ethical and full of integrity in a country that was basically run by thugs and criminals and was nothing more than a massive cartel enterprise. Now, Gorbachev was met with a fair amount of anti-Soviet Union protests, and he was one of the first people not to crack down on the anti-communist, anti-totalitarian protests with force. Now, Gorbachev is not totally beloved in Eastern Europe. He's not. In fact, Vladimir Putin has said many times that one of the greatest mistakes that Russia ever made was the dissolution of the Soviet Union, brokered by Gorbachev. Gorbachev ended the Cold War. And yes, Gorbachev was outmaneuvered and outstrategized by Reagan, but he was always inclined towards peace. Gorbachev was probably too good of a person to run the Soviet Union. And he did bring he brought a movement of sovereignty in Estonia and Lithuania and Latvia, in the Balkan Peninsula. The Soviet Union was a far-reaching, totalitarian, communist blanket over the eastern part of Europe. And a lot of that has broken up, and Russia is doing their best job to try to recreate that, albeit very difficult and clumsily, and at a very, very high cost. But Gorbachev was a realist. But Gorbachev wanted peace. And if I look right now at our struggle against the American left, if I look at the totalitarians that run the administrative state in our own country, I say, boy, do we need a Gorbachev of the Democrat Party. We need someone that wants peace, that doesn't want to have this endless conflict that calls us semi-fascists. You see, Gorbachev was not loved by his base. Gorbachev got done what needed to get done. He liberated many of these countries. He restored private property rights, consent to the governed, and of course the gangsters took over not too long after. But there's no doubt that the standard and quality of life in many parts of Eastern Europe have improved dramatically thanks to the moves of Mikhail Gorbachev, one of the most important people to live in the 20th century. Worked well with Reagan, understood the necessity of markets and of decentralized power. But if I look at our struggle right now against what could be called the administrative state, the fourth branch of government, the shadow government, the deep state, we have to ask ourselves, where's the Gorbachev of the left? And there is no one. Someone that recognizes that this endless struggle between the two incumbent factions is not going to end well. Instead, Joe Biden goes out and taunts conservatives, saying that if you really are going to want to fight your government, you're going to need F-15s. Hold on a second. We never said we want to fight our government. We said that, God forbid, we're ever going to have to push back against a usurpatious, tyrannical government, of which the 20th century had plenty examples of. Then that is what the Second Amendment is designed for. We've been very clear on the program. That's what the Founding Fathers wrote the Second Amendment for. That's why the Second Amendment exists, to protect all the other amendments. Does it make people feel good to hear that? It's just true. Where is the Democrat that actually wants peace? The thing is, we on the right would love it. We want to live in the country. We want to live in America where we are not at each other's throats all the time. That is the heart of your modern conservative. That is the heart of your MAGA conservative. You talk to a MAGA conservative, they would love to go back to the country of the 1980s and 1990s, where we didn't talk about politics all the time. But if you even say that, you are called a racist and a fascist by your government, by the left-wing regime. You see, because leftists find their identity, they find their meaning in their activist causes. We as conservatives only use politics as a unfortunate necessity as a means to the end to protect our meaning. Politics is not our meaning. Family, business, maybe a local small business, church, your relationship with the divine is far more important than politics. Gorbachev in the 1980s and 90s showed us a way that peace is possible. And for many young people, they don't teach you about the Soviet Union in school at all, because the Soviet Union shows exactly where the modern left wants to take us. You can read the Gulag Archipelago. You could read Darkness at Noon by Arthur Koestler. Whether it be the secret police, the KGB, gulags, forced confiscation of property, the kulaks, the lessons from the Russian Revolution from Lenin to Trotsky, to the assassination of General Tukhachevsky, to Joseph Stalin. Russian and Soviet history is instructive to exactly what they're trying to do here. Here's Joe Biden joking about conservatives who want to have firearms to potentially protect themselves against tyranny. This is the way that Joseph Stalin would talk. Play cut 42.
Brave right-wing Americans who say it's all about keeping America's independent and safe. If you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You need something a little more than a gun.
What an irresponsible thing to say. He's basically saying, okay, if you want to be able to have firearms to protect yourself against potential tyranny, of which happened in the National Socialist Worker Party in Germany, of which happened in Vietnam, which happened in Cambodia, which happened in communist China, which happened in Korea, death camps in every hemisphere, everywhere, of the government terrorizing their citizens. Joe Biden is taunting you and baiting you, and you say, boy, where is the Gorbachev of the American left? Where is someone that's trying to actually bring down the temperatures? And that was the brilliance of Gorbachev. He cared so deeply about his people, he was willing to sacrifice ideology for humanity. That's the lesson. Whereas the American left, they elevate ideology over humanity. Power is all that matters to them. And Joe Biden thinks that, Joe Biden's been on this PR campaign recently, and he has just been going after conservatives and Republicans, taunting, baiting, trying to poke you in the eye. And I've said many times that absent a Gorbachev on the left, the only way that we defeat the left is we defeat the left. They're only stopped when they will only stop when they're stopped. And this is the truth that conservatives do not want. And guess what? That's the lesson from Ronald Reagan too with Gorbachev.